Spiceworks. Thanks for tuning in today and joining us on another Spiceworks partner webinar, The Case for Hybrid Laptops That Can Take a Beating, brought to you by Panasonic. Before we get started, I do want to remind everyone this webinar is being recorded. If you have to step away for any reason, you will get an email with a link to the video in about a week. Also, there's a Q&A box on your screen to the left. I encourage you to submit your questions at any time during the presentation. We'll get to those questions at the end via a verbal Q&A, but if your question isn't addressed live, someone will be able to follow up with you. Now I'd like to introduce our presenters, Ed Tittle, industry expert, blogger, and regular Spiceworks presenter, and Jim Dempsey, senior business development manager with Panasonic. So Ed, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Thanks, Emily. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Our presentations today is going to be about hybrid laptops that are designed to operate outdoors and in various kinds of environments that are a little bit more demanding than when you find indoors. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Right now we're in a situation where hybrid devices are getting lots of increasing use in the field, in the office, and in general. And when I say hybrid, what I mean is a device that can be used in multiple ways. Typically what this means for PCs is that they can function as a tablet and they can function as a laptop, so that you can either detach the tablet portion from a base with a keyboard and trackpad in it, or you can fold it over all the way 270 degrees so that essentially you've just got the tablet surface showing and you can't really see the keyboard. And it functions in that position as a more or less pure tablet, though it can also be used as a laptop by either plugging it into a keyboard dock or flipping things around so that you can access both trackpad and keyboard at the same time that you can see the screen. And what we're seeing in the marketplace is that there's an increasing adoption from both consumers and businesses for this kind of equipment. And in fact, it's one of the few growth areas that's left in the PC market, which by most reckonings is considered to be a pretty mature market, which means that people are either buying to replace older equipment or they're buying to equip workers with PCs, but there's not this huge explosion in the marketplace going on right now where people are just going nuts buying PCs, especially in the first world. That marketplace is pretty saturated. That kind of growth is now more of a second and third world phenomenon. But whatever market they may be in, enterprises do need multi-purpose devices, and it turns out that hybrids are a good way to go. And of course, users are always looking to find the best of both worlds, and a device that functions well as a tablet and well as a laptop is actually a pretty nice device indeed. So let's talk about making a case for hybrids. Why are they interesting? What makes them good for work purposes? And what do they bring to the party that perhaps other kinds of equipment doesn't really bring to us when we look at the differences between conventional laptops and hybrids, conventional hybrids, and ruggedized hybrids. The nice thing about hybrids is that they fit well into lots of different usage scenarios. They can be used purely as a tablet, as is the case maybe when the UPS guy or the FedEx guy comes to your door and asks you to sign something or check some shipping manifest real quick on the truck to make sure that he's got all your packages before he walks to the door. They fit all different kinds of usage scenarios, from pure tablet to pure PC and all the points in between that you can think of. What this means is that it provides an excellent desktop replacement in the office so that you can be productive and use your typical line of business and productivity apps. But it also operates either as a laptop or a tablet on the go, away from the office and in fact away from an electrical socket in a lot of cases. Surprisingly, though, most people tend to think of computers as white-collar business tools. White-collar and blue-collar workers alike find great value and great utility from working with hybrid devices. And if you look at the pictures at the bottom of the slide here, you'll see a variety of different kinds of industrial settings where people are working with equipment, hardware, all kinds of shop floor, factory floor type stuff, but they're also using computers at the same time. And these hybrid devices make that sort of thing not just possible, but easy and natural. So now that we've looked at what a hybrid is and understand that it's something that functions equally well as a conventional laptop or as a tablet, what is the whole thing about rugged that is interesting and what makes it worth buying into? Essentially, rugged means that the computer has been specially packaged, specially treated, and specially designed so that it can provide ongoing access to computing anywhere. And when I say anywhere, I mean that these kinds of devices are designed for use in more stressful environments. If you take a look at various definitions of rugged and the information that's available out there on the internet about rugged computers, and I'll recommend the Wikipedia article as one of the sources for some pretty useful information, you'll find out that not only does rugged mean that it's designed for stressful environments or difficult environments, there's also a spectrum of ruggedness that you'll hear assigned to a variety of devices, so that you might hear about a fully rugged computer, a semi-rugged computer, a business rugged computer, and various degrees of ruggedness. And what this means is that as you climb up the ruggedness scale, the amount of protection and the amount of capability that you're buying at a higher price typically gets higher and higher as well, so that we can talk about devices that are resistant to dust and grit at a very high level, or that may be able to handle up to a very small particle size but still be somewhat subject to dust and grit. Likewise, we have water-resistant devices, or we have waterproof devices. Interesting thing about working with a lot of these things is that protecting a computer from the external environment poses interesting problems for cooling and ventilation, because you don't want to let water or dust or other things from the environment in, but you still have to figure out how to have an air intake and keep the device cool and keep it operating at a normal temperature even when it might be very cold or very warm outside. And a lot of these devices have operating temperatures maybe from something like 0 degrees centigrade to 70 degrees centigrade, which is a pretty broad range of temperatures. They might actually even be from minus 20 all the way to plus 70 or plus 90, depending on the application that they're designed to work for. And what I'm trying to communicate here is that these devices are designed to operate across a broad range of temperature and humidity values, and you have to look at what your environment is going to be like when you pick out the device that you want to buy to use in that environment, so that you don't buy too much more protection than you really need, but you get what you do need, so it'll keep working wherever your workers may be wanting to use it. Primarily, what we see with a lot of these devices, as you can tell from the picture in the lumberyard there on the slide, these devices are designed for outdoor use wherever the work might be, and and combine wireless, wide area networking, Wi-Fi, and various kinds of wireless communications so that they can stay connected and keep moving data even when they're completely untethered out in the field working as either a laptop or a tablet. When it comes to looking at the cost effectiveness of rugged devices, there's no denying that the upfront purchase costs are higher than they are for conventional office-only PCs. It turns out, though, if you take a look at the total cost of ownership for such devices over the long term, as long as they're both being used outdoors in non-office environments, it turns out that even though the upfront costs of acquisition may be higher, a rugged device is something that's actually going to cost less over the long run than a non-rugged device, because of the incidence of repair and the outages and the opportunity costs involved in not being able to use the machine sometimes. And if you're wondering how this works from kind of an economic basis, think about sending a field technician out to do something in the field and having to dispatch a second technician to take over for the first because the first PC quits working while he's doing something outdoors. Avoiding those kinds of extra costs which add up very quickly, can really add to the overall cost throughout the life cycle of a device. And it turns out that tough means that there's less trouble for work outside the office, and that rugged devices fail less frequently. Also that because failure involves direct costs for repairs and time and effort, but also indirect costs, opportunity costs, lost labor costs, and that kind of thing, tends to multiply the amount of losses that actually occur. Also, lower failure rates means that you get a longer life cycle for a rugged device, so you might be able to keep it out in the field for a year or maybe even 2 years longer than a conventional PC. And once you pay it off, the ROI on the device really starts going up after that. And the longer you can use it, the better the return on your investment will be. Let's talk a little bit about typical rugged hybrid features and capabilities. What you find in a lot of devices is that they're designed for use in specific environments, so that, for example, on a factory floor or a foundry or something like that, you might actually acquire a device that's designed for touch use with gloves on, which means it's going to have different sensitivity settings, different kinds of touch pickup on the screen, whether capacitive or resistive, whatever kind of technology is being used, but suitable for use with gloves. You're also going to find that a lot of these devices have the ability to hot swap batteries. And what that means is more than just unplugging the old battery and plugging a new one in. There actually has to be some circuitry inside the device that keeps the engine ticking over, the fan going, the CPU running, the disk drives working while the old battery is being pulled out and the new battery is being put in, so that you're going to be able to carry an extra charged battery with you, and as the first battery starts going down in charge, you can actually pop the old one out, stick a new one in, and just keep on working, because the device has been designed to keep running even in the absence of a battery for long enough for you to swap out the old one and swap in the new one. You're also going to find interesting features such as daylight viewable displays, rain sensing screens, a variety of different options for use in bright sunlight or low light conditions, maybe even working in very low light conditions like a cockpit or a tank cabin or something like that, where you don't want to destroy somebody's night vision, and work in different colors and different frequency ranges than you might in an ordinary office environment. So what you've got with these kinds of devices are all of the basics that are associated with a typical notebook or tablet PC of any kind, and by which I mean networking, storage, CPU, various kinds of peripheral ports, and so on and so forth. In a lot of these hybrid devices, you're going to have some key peripherals that are going to be of great interest and use, such as a dock connector for plugging the device into when you're in the office and want to be working in office mode, smart card readers and various other kinds of card capabilities for access control, security, different kinds of data storage, secure data storage, password storage, various kinds of operating credentials, and that sort of thing. It's often the case that these kinds of devices are going to be connected up to special purpose hardware such as sensors, instrument packages, and a variety of different kinds of equipment. So a lot of them have serial and other kinds of ports on them so that they can link up to that equipment and acquire data from it while they're being used out in the field. This is something you typically wouldn't even think about for a conventional PC, but very typical for a field-intended rugged PC. You're also going to find other accessories available, especially the extra batteries that I already mentioned, a variety of different tethers and equipment to keep it from getting stolen or to keep one's hands on it easily, and also a number of different kinds of films to put over the screen to protect it from scratching or from environmental influences to reduce glare, and so on and so forth. Now, it turns out that pretty much anybody who needs to get away from the office and go out in the field is going to find a rugged hybrid at least interesting, if not downright essential. And I've listed a number of different industry segments here where, if you stop to think about it, you've probably seen people using devices like these already. Field services of all kinds for repair companies, service companies, all kinds of operations that send people out in the field. Utilities, including water, electric, and gas companies that send meter readers and repair staff and monitors and other people out in the field to deal with issues. Oil and gas, all the way from exploration and recovery, all the way through the downstream refining and delivery. There's a lot of use for hybrid devices in those kinds of environments. Transportation and logistics includes companies like FedEx and DHL and UPS and others that I've already mentioned, but also includes moving companies, shipping companies, special purpose delivery, and a variety of other companies whose job it is to figure out where stuff needs to be and make sure that it gets there when it's needed. Healthcare industry, lots of opportunities for physicians, nurses, and other medical staff to take advantage of this, office staff as well. Insurance is another market where there's a tremendous amount of use for this kind of stuff. I was involved in a fender bender last year coming back from San Antonio, and when we took the car into the recommended body shop to get it looked at for an estimate for repair, the technician that was, I should say rather, the claims adjuster who worked for the insurance company had a rugged laptop in his hand and used it to take pictures of the damage and to enter data into forms right there as he was standing there looking at the car. Of course, you've seen the ruggedized laptops that the police have in the cabins of the police cars, and then lots of other public safety operations such as EMS and fire, so on and so forth, have similar devices. Tremendous number of applications in the defense industry, and in fact there's a military standard 810G or Golf that establishes a series of tests for determining equipment suitability for military operations, and you may see some visual demonstrations of this a little later on when Jim takes over the podium and walks you through some of the stuff that Panasonic has done. And I could keep going about this for a long time, but instead what I'm going to do is take a little bit closer look at some of the areas in which this equipment gets used a little bit more extensively. We talked about field services, and by that I mean technicians, delivery personnel, and managers, operatives out in the field that are responsible for checking on stuff or making sure that people are where they need to be. Tremendous applications for scheduling, dispatching, and tracking, figuring out where people need to be, how they need to get there, and where they need to go. Lots of interesting tools for wayfinding using maps and GPS services, real-time communications right through the device itself, through text, chat, email, or even voice communications in some cases. And all the while, you've got a fully functioning PC with you, so you also have instant access to line of business applications while you're out in the field. Read email, you can fill out forms, you can run various kinds of equipment, access applications, and so on and so forth. If we take a look now at the utility companies, they have the same basics that the field services folks that we just talked about have. They also have access to specialized maps for buried lines and services so that while they're out in the field, they know exactly where to go to find stuff and access repair ports or punch-down blocks or whatever it is that they're working with. They also have instant access to repair and service manuals so that they can figure out how to do stuff if they haven't serviced a particular piece of equipment in a while, or they may even have the opportunity to get trained in the field instead of having to be trained somewhere in a training room before being sent out into the field. And of course, because you've got the communications capability, you've also got easy escalation for troubleshooting to bring in more qualified or more knowledgeable people, mentoring to help train people out in the field. In the oil and gas industry, the access that the machine brings includes information about geology and well log data on the exploration side, pipeline and plant information for downstream operations, and all kinds of special applications and services depending on the job role of the individual who's carrying the machine around. And the nice thing about it is it's flexible and capable and can be used to support a person doing work in the field, knowing what they're most likely to be working on and what kinds of information they're going to need. In the healthcare industry, we're starting to see a real explosion of this sort of thing where physicians and other medical staff can get immediate access to patient records and test results while they're sitting with the patient. They can also use the device to capture information such as notes, update records, and perform analyses. It also ties into workflow applications to route people through hospitals and clinics and so on and so forth, including work orders for tests and other kinds of diagnostics or checkups that might need to be performed, and then prescription handling. Maybe this might finally do away with having to decode illegible handwriting at the pharmacy, but I've noticed that these days most of the medical practices that I do business with tend to rely more on email than anything else to get prescriptions to my neighborhood pharmacy. Also, the use of this kind of equipment helps to maintain record security and improve the overall quality of service. So what I'd like to do now is to summarize the benefits of the hybrid environment and to kind of wrap things up before handing it over to Jim. And so what I'm going to do on this slide here is I'm just going to remind you of some things that we've already talked about and toss in a few little factoids to make things more interesting. There's no doubt that enterprise mobility is growing in scope and in the number of people who are actually using equipment away from their desks. It needs computing power to get the job done, and particularly in outdoor environments, there's just no better solution than some form of ruggedized device to make that kind of capability available in the great outdoors. Remember that hybrids bring the best of both worlds and that they function as a full-fledged laptop PC, but that they also can function as a tablet and do touch-only or touch and stylus type of interaction and input. They give users lots more flexibility to do things the way that they want to while they're at their desks or out in the field, and provide meaningful computing in all the environments that people have to work in. And study after study has shown not only the benefits in the total cost of ownership that we talked about a little bit earlier on, but also that using hybrids, especially ruggedized hybrids out in the field, can improve worker efficiency, that they can improve profitability, and for the employees who use them, make them more satisfied with their jobs because they're better able to do what they need to do out in the field and move on from one task to another with the first task more or less complete and the second one ready to get underway. Likewise, the people who are working with the field folks or with the repair staff or whoever they're interacting with are getting a higher level of service because they're able to access more information, be more productive, and do more stuff when they're interacting with customers, which tends to make for happier customers as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand off to Jim Dempsey. Jim has over 26 years of experience in the technology sector. For the past 15 years, he's been focused primarily on the rugged mobility market, and he really knows his stuff. Right now, as the slide says, Jim is a senior business development manager for Panasonic Mobility, and he's got some really interesting things to talk about today. Jim, please take it.
All right, good. Thank you very much. So that was, I think, some great information on kind of the history of rugged, the value proposition around rugged, as well as the hybrids. And so what I'll do here is I'll try and take you through what does it actually look like and translate to, as far as what you'll see in the type of tools that certainly Panasonic brings to the market in this space. All right. So what we see here is some more traditional Panasonic technology. So if, for the folks on the phone that maybe not as familiar with Panasonic, just a quick background. Over 15 years ago, Panasonic pioneered and chartered the rugged laptop space. Toughbook, as you'll hear, is the branded name for that rugged environment, those rugged devices, and we were the first company to engineer and launch that type of product line. So what you really see here is, in this slide here, are some of our core, what we call traditional laptops. Although they are traditional, the screen technology that we use in these types of devices are still, they're touchscreen enabled, outdoor viewable type screens that are very rugged. But at their core, these devices here are designed to support a variety of legacy applications as well as new applications. And if you look at I won't go through all the specs here. Certainly you can see that on the screen, but just as an overview, these are Intel-based products using Core i5 processors, either 5 or Core i7s. So a lot of computing capacity there, up to 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gig of storage. What we've done, the industry has kind of gone this way, but to make them more reliable, you'll see SSD or non-spinning hard drives, solid-state drives being used across the board. And then on top of that, you'll see the usual type of connectivity options that someone would expect to have in a device that you're going to not be in the office, you're going to be remote. So things like Bluetooth, GPS, Wi-Fi, 4G coverage, those are all pretty much standard technologies that we build in across the board. But then from a ruggedization standpoint, these devices are designed, from, Ed had mentioned the A10G spec. We expect that these devices are going to be in utility vehicles, in Humvees going up and down the mountains. They'll be in police vehicles. They'll be in other types of environments, on forklifts and warehouses, where they'll need to be rugged enough to take that vibration. So really what you see here are two of our most popular products that we launched a number of years back. The 31 is very popular in the fire, police, safety environment, and then as well as in the utility space. The 54 is a little larger screen, a little less rugged than the 31 for people who need to take it out of the vehicle. Again, that does very well for us in the utility space. We do have a number of other products that, just to give you a kind of quick overview of the line here, as we start getting into what Ed had talked about, the hybrid line. So while our traditional laptops have always had touch technology built in, what we're seeing in the market, and we're adapting to the market and bringing some new products to the market, you'll see what we call 2-in-1s. So 2-in-1, if you look on the left, the Toughbook 20, which was just announced, that is a fully sustainable 10-inch rugged tablet on its own. However, in its base, it then is a full functioning laptop. And by providing that kind of a solution to the customer sets that we work with, number one, we're able to do this much more rugged than consumer grade tablet slash 2-in-1, but in a form factor that is just as rugged as all of our existing platforms, can go into the same environments that we've been talking about. And this device, as well as some of our others, we still support, for those that are on the line, there's a technology called serial technology, which is used quite a bit in many industries. It's an older technology, and a lot of the newer platforms, newer operating systems do not support that. We've kept that capability within our line because of the nature of our customer base. So even in this brand new CF20, you'll see a serial port being built in. So again, taking the new technology, Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7, whichever our customers need to run, adding in all of the current technologies that we will put in there, including RFID technologies, biometric, and others, but then doing it in a form factor that they can use in and out of their vehicle. Certainly to the right, the 19, CF9, or the Toughbook 19 has been a very popular product of ours. That is a product that actually the screen will swivel and then cant down, so it can be used either in a true tablet format or as a PC with the keyboard, whereas the 20 is a fully detachable. So again, those are two products which have been very popular for Panasonic, have really kept the heritage of the rugged environment. Again, the Core i5, the Windows platform, again, with all the other technologies that we build into that. So we're going to continue to invest in that line and move forward over time. And then one other thing I'd like to share with everybody is the dynamics of the industry have changed, and certainly when the iPad came out, it made the tablet cool again. Now, we've been doing tablets for years, but really when the iPad came out, it really brought it to the forefront. So then people were looking at, how can I take a tablet into these very rugged spaces and environments that we're going into? And so we launched a product line called the Toughpad. So as you can see, it's a play on the Toughbook line. So the Toughpad line was launched about 5 years ago, and we initially launched the device on the left, which is a fully rugged Windows tablet called the G1. Now, in these tablets, what you'll see is these are full processors, full PCs. So in a very small form factor, we were able to make a very rugged device with all the outdoor capability, with all the connectivity options that we have in our laptops, but do it with full Windows operating systems with Core i5 processors or i7 processors from Intel. So the G1 and the M1, which you see in the middle, even though they are tablets, they can run your full desktop suite. So with the desktop cradles that come with these devices, they can run your operation in your office. You can pop it out of the cradle into your vehicle, out on your job site. So it's one device, and you're not changing data or exchanging data or uploading or having to move data around. So again, our customer set looking for very rugged devices with full capability to run their full suite of applications. The last product which I'll touch on here is really to the right. We have been doing handhelds, rugged handhelds in Japan for years. And about a year and a half ago, we brought to the market here in the United States and now rolling out to the rest of the world a handheld line of products that are focused around Android and Windows. So again, taking a page out of our book from the Toughbook line, these products, again, very rugged handhelds, going to be used out in environments where it's very hot, very cold, the screen's going to get wet, it's going to get dropped, it's going to get vibrated around in the vehicle, outdoor viewable screens and the such. So again, that technology we've brought down now into a 5-inch form factor. So really, when you look at the Panasonic product line today in terms of rugged and what we're doing with hybrids as well as classic laptops and handhelds, is we're really going from point A to point B, right? We've got everything from your traditional laptops to the mid-range laptop hybrids out to the 7-inch, 10-inch tablets down to the 5-inch handheld. So we are actually the only manufacturer, core component manufacturer left in the industry that can span the array of products that's really fit for purpose rather than one size fits all. So what we have here are a couple videos. I think we're going to play for you. Let me see if I can get one up here. Let's see. I think that's going to launch it. Is that launching? All right. Hopefully that will kick in here in a second. But one of the things I was going to mention and that might not play, if our folks here on the tech side can get that going there for us. But from a core component manufacturer, as I mentioned, what that means, we talked about what rugged looks like, but really rugged is more of an inside-out approach than an outside-in. So we do see a lot of folks out there taking consumer-type technologies and other things that they're trying to repackage and then just say, okay, put some bumpers on it, put a case around it, and hey, it's rugged. Well, really, that design methodology is really looking at a price point. So it's how can we design the cheapest product we can, to try and fit it into these rugged spaces, whereas our design philosophy is let's look at the use case for where these devices are going to go and build it from the bottom up from an engineering perspective, from the components inside out, how are we going to make a device that's going to be able to survive in those environments. So when I talk about core component manufacturer, we do not outsource our designs. We do not outsource manufacturing. We do our own designs. We engineer our products. We actually even make the robots that make many of the parts for our products. We assemble them and we maintain them, through the lifetime of the product as customers have them. So what that translates to, and Ed had mentioned the total cost of ownership, our industry failure, our mean time between failures is about 2%. Whereas you look at other rugged types of devices, they're in the 8 to 9% range, and then you get into consumer devices, you're probably in, around the 14 to 15% failure rate range. So again, because we control so much of our ecosystem of engineering the products and designing them, maintaining them, we're able to have devices that are able to stay in the field as long as possible. So again, some of the applications that Ed had talked about, fire safety, certainly military, utilities when storms come through, our devices are designed to be able to keep those applications and those users up and running as much as possible, closest as we can to 24/7, so that they can get their jobs done. And in many cases, it does impact lives out in the field. So one of the other technologies that most people don't realize, Panasonic is actually the largest battery manufacturer in the world. In fact, we're building the Tesla factory right now to help support that product. But we use our own battery technology again. So what you'll see is in our products a full line of products that have battery technology that can sustain full shifts, full work out in the field. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview. We didn't want to get into too many of the bits and the bytes there on what the product line looks like, what Panasonic has done, and where we're going. certainly we're going to continue to innovate in this industry. We've been a leader for over 15 years and 85% market share in rugged, and we continue to invest and we'll continue to move forward in the environment. So with that, I guess we'll turn it back over for some Q&A. I think Emily and the folks there have been collecting some questions, so I'll go ahead and turn it over.
Hey, Emily, I'll be happy to take.
I'll take care of it, Ed. That way y'all can answer questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so let's see. Our first question's from Josh. Actually, this is a comment. He says that video was awesome. Let's see. Larry wants to know, do you know what ports, USB, video, 3.5 millimeter audio, etc., are available on the Toughpads, comparable to the Surface Pro?
I'm sorry, could you repeat? Was asking how many ports or what, like USB 3, is that what they're asking?
Do you know what ports are on compared to the Surface Pro?
Well, I'd have to look at the specific configuration of the Surface Pro, but just speaking from the Panasonic side, on the tablets, we typically have a full HDMI port as well as a full USB 3.0 port, and then we also have some audio ports for audio jacks. And then through the use of either our docking stations or attachable keyboards, we can add additional ports if needed. Again, I'm not as familiar with exactly the configuration of the Surface Pro, but from our perspective, hopefully that gives you an idea of what's on the device.
Let me go ahead and interject, Tim, since I've got a Surface Pro 3 sitting right here.
Okay, there you go.
Desk. It looks like the Surface Pro has a few less ports than the Panasonic devices do, and one of the other differences is that the Surface Pro has a mini SD card only, whereas a lot of the Panasonic models take full-size cards, and it's a little bit easier to get at the cards on the Panasonics as well than on the Surface Pros, because you got to pop the back up on the Surface Pro and lift up the whatever that thing is called that comes out, the kickstand, and in order to get access to the port where the micro SD card port resides. Typically, they've only got one USB 3 port on them and a mini video port. Back to you, Emily.
Jason would like to know if that's a single USB 3 port. Is there only one on the on the Toughbook Pro? I'm sorry, the Toughpad. The Toughbook.
Yeah, so if he's asking about the Toughpads have one. The laptops, hybrids, and 2-in-1s typically have anywhere from 2 to 4, depending on which device and within the configuration. And even in the actually, in fact, on the Toughpads, I should comment that we do have a configuration port where we can add a second USB port or Ethernet port or serial port or barcode scanner. So there is the capability on the two Toughpads, the M1 and the G1, to have two USB ports if needed.
All right, great. Shane would like to know, does having the serial port mean we do not need the USB to serial adapter to console into a switch?
Exactly. So that's exactly why we continued with that technology, so you do not need to do any kind of a USB converter.
Let's see. Can you talk a little bit about what the MSRP is on these new rugged tablets, or where they could find that information?
Sure. I mean, that information should be, I think, available on our websites or through our partner channel. But just as a high level, if we're just talking, MSRP quantity 1 for base units, for the G1, you're probably starting around, the $2,500 range, including a 3-year warranty. The M1's a couple $100 less than that, and then you get down to the handhelds, Toughpads, you're probably in the $1,700 range. And again, that's MSRP quantity 1, so obviously customers are buying that for less, but that hopefully gives you a range.
Great. Can you talk a little bit about that warranty and what it covers?
Sure. So all of our devices ship with 3-year warranty standard. So that's parts and labor. Our repair facilities here in the U.S. We don't ship it off cross border. So that facility does a number of different things for us. But the base warranty will cover normal wear and tear. We do have an optional upgrade to the warranty, so some customers just want to have what they call a no-fault warranty, where, hey, whatever happens, if I drive over it, if I use or abuse, I want that to be covered. We do offer options for that, and then we can also add other features to the warranties as needed. So we could do image loading, so customers could have us holding the image for them. So when a device comes in, it gets repaired, and then we'll re-image it with their software, and then ship it back out to them so it's ready to go when they get it. We can even do cross ships, next day, spare in the air kind of product warranties. So we'll go from the basic warranty, all the break fix, standard, out of the box warranty, and through no fault up to spare in the air type offerings as well.
Great. So you mentioned normal wear and tear. I know these are Toughpads and Toughbooks. What exactly do you mean by normal wear and tear? Like, if somebody drags this behind their ATV, is Panasonic going to cover that?
Yeah, so I don't have all the T's and C's here to go through, but the typical things that will happen, there'll be some cracked screens, there'll be some keys that may depending on what happens, pop out, maybe some component options here and there, but we cover a good amount in our normal. And again, if anyone's interested, we could certainly get the full T's and C's to them as far as the standard warranty. The standard warranty covers a lot. It's really when you get into have just about crushed the device where you'd need to have that higher level warranty to have that covered underneath the repair.
All right, great. Is there a dedicated dock connector, or does the dock connect via USB?
Yeah, so all of our devices have dedicated docking connectors. We use the same PCB board, if you will, for all of our devices. So it's very similar. Obviously, the docks themselves will range in size because of the footprint of the devices, but we use the same core technology. So it's not some sort of a USB only. It's a full docking connector that we use for each of the devices.
Great. Let's see. Benjamin would like to know, is the Toughbook 20 rugged rated in tablet form and laptop form, or just laptop form?
The CF20 or the Toughbook 20 is rated fully rugged in both forms. And in fact, all the devices, fully rugged devices, except for the 54 that we saw today, are also Class 1 Div 2, which is what we call an iSafe or incendiary type of certification. So the 20 is also falls into that category. So with or without the keyboard, it meets those standards.
Great. Do the typical hybrids include security features such as TPM chips or hardware encrypted hard drives?
Yes, they do. So obviously leveraging the core processors from Intel, which include the TPM technology, we can do that. And then we also have Opal drives, which we can offer, which are self-encrypting. And then we also we do a lot of business with the military. So when it comes down to the FIPS level security, or even for healthcare, for HIPAA compliance, we've got a full range of hardware as well as software type technologies that we can include in the devices or load onto the devices to lock them down.
Great. Let's see. Are there many rugged devices that would be able to have 3G or 4G service?
Yes, actually, all the devices that we talk about that we saw today and that are in our line are all fully supported by 4G. So we can go 4G across the board with pretty much all of our products. Mainly today is AT&T and Verizon, and Sprint has also been working with us to get back onto our line card. But out of the box today, all of our devices support 4G.
Let's see. Brian says, we have many semi-rugged laptops from Panasonic and Dell. The biggest problem, particularly with the Panasonic, is that it felt a little bulky. Do you see vendors offering a rugged laptop that has thinness and weight similar to maybe a MacBook? Do you foresee that coming?
Well, certainly, I think if you look at just the, and it's hard to tell in the product shots that we saw there, the CF31 is an older design of ours, and if you look at that, it's probably a good, 2 to 3 inches thick from top to bottom, when it's closed. But then you look at, say, the CF20, which we just launched, which has the same durability spec. Obviously, the screen's a little, if instead of a 13-inch screen, we're going to a 10-inch screen. But when you get down to the CF20, you're talking about an inch and a half as far as thickness from top to bottom when you have it closed with the tablet portion and the keyboard included. So that the technology that we use and the componentry obviously getting smaller, we're able to do very rugged devices in very small packages. Could we get to that kind of paper thin iMac or AirMac type of form factor? Not sure we can get all the way there because you do need some space to have some ruggedness and durability there, but we're getting there. And I think if you look at just from the 31 to the 20, we've almost cut the size of and weight of the device in half, but we retained a pretty good, the same, if you will, durability spec that we had in the past.
Great. So hot swap batteries, that's very cool. What's the time frame before the PC shuts down?
Yeah, great question. So you have the hot swappable type technology where in all of our tablets we offer a bridge battery, so that you have about in some cases up to 3 minutes, in most cases 1 minute to 3 minutes time frame to actually take the battery out, keep your applications up, replace the battery, and then get back going in what you were doing. So so that's typically the range that you'll see there with the hot swap batteries.
Great. Let's see. Is it cleared for use in sensitive dust environments such as grain and sugar storage where arcs cause explosions?
So yeah, so our devices, there's a couple different classifications out there. So for those that are familiar, Class 1 Div 1 is the very upper level where you're really kind of in some nasty environments, maybe munition factories and things like that, or even so the dust grain environments. We do not support Class 1 Div 1, but Class 1 Div 2 is the step down, just a step down from that. So all of our fully rugged devices support Class 1 Div 2. So it would just be a matter of understanding what the requirements are for the environment we're going into. So if that kind of the grain environment is certified or requires a Class 1 Div 2, we're fine. If it requires a higher level, obviously, then there's some very specialized. There's not very many of them out there. There's maybe 2 companies that make those kind of devices, very small and very niche. But there are some Division 1, Class 1 devices out there that, or Class 1 Div 2, I should say, or Class 1 Div 1 that are out there. But we support Class 1 Div 2 across the board.
Great. Let's see. Kyle asks, I worked with some semi-rugged MDPs with the Sheriff's Department. They stayed in the car most of the time, plugged in, and this destroyed the battery's long-term life. Is there a way to fix this in mobile computers that are always plugged in?
Yeah, so I would say some of the battery technology, the newer technology that we brought into the tablets. We're certainly conscious of the fact that these will be connected and disconnected in a variety of ways. So I would say the battery technology that we've brought is in our most recent Toughpads will do a lot better with the battery memory scenarios, and also the newer lithium type technologies and other technologies that we're embedding into the batteries also help relieve that the battery memory issue that I think they may have been experiencing.
Great. Mike says, do you see the price for rugged laptops coming down as more and more companies and users start to switch to the rugged approach?
I do, yes. I guess it's kind of a double-edged sword, right, as the manufacturer. But when you look at a CF31, going to a CF20 type technology or a form factor, obviously the price is at least a 20% difference between one versus the other. So as we move forward, the devices are getting, again, they're staying rugged but getting a little smaller. The cost of componentry comes down as well as we're leveraging across our supply chain. We are seeing the price of the fully rugged devices, staying at the fully rugged spec, but we do see the price points, starting to reduce. Obviously the consumer end of things is pushing up into some of the markets that we play in. So that's the goal is to try and provide the best balance between rugged and price point for our customers. So But in general, yeah, we do see the price points of devices starting to rugged devices moving downward over time.
Great. So Steve says, I currently have about 20 CFH2 Toughpad tablets with scanners. What would you recommend replacement, and does Panasonic have a shell program that can lock the system down?
Okay, so the H2, for those in the phone, that was really our first tablet. Someone called it the Speak and Spell because it's got a handle on the top. And then when the iPad came out, they said, well, that's not a tablet. And then we went to the more traditional tablet form factor. So I would say from the G1, depending on the use case, I'm sorry, from the H2, I said the replacement would probably be the G1 to look at first. You know, depending on the use case, the CF20 could be something to look at as well. If you still like a tablet form factor but want a little more keyboard. So those might be the two places to start. And from an application, locking the device down, there's certain capabilities in Windows that are there, but also we see a lot of folks using, third-party applications from Absolute Software, the mobile device management, the AirWatch, the SOTI, mobile irons, using those types of technologies to lock and track the devices. So again, there's some base functionality within the devices themselves, but then we see a lot of that other function, the higher level functionality coming, and additional security coming from the mobile device management tools.
Great. Ryan asks, what kind of temperature range can the rugged line operate in?
Yep. So there's, we are pretty conservative about the specs you'll see in some of our brochures, but realistically, a lot of these devices, particularly the Toughpads, have heaters built into them, so we can go sub-zero, typically up into, from sub-zero and up to, 110, 120 degree type temperatures, fairly easily. The only concern some folks may have is if you go sub-zero, sub-freezing, and the device is turned off for a long period of time. In some cases, you might see some degradation there, but as long as the device is on, it's able to basically use the heaters and also the heat coming off of the processor to help keep the inner workings of the device, functioning. So, again, realistically, you're looking at kind of a sub-zero to again the 110, 120 degree type environment.
Great. What is Panasonic doing to address manufacturing glitches like the sound mute that affected the CF30 and the CF31 models?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
What is Panasonic doing to address the manufacturing glitches like the sound mute that affected the CF30 and CF31 models? Gotcha.
I am not specifically familiar with that that particular issue that the caller there addressed, but what I can say is that one of the things that we do at the National Service Center is we track any failures coming through, and as if we start to see any kind of a trend, we have folks from Japan actually come over once a month and inspect what's going on as far as trends, good or bad. And when we start to see something that's becoming a recurring problem, we do our best to try and address that proactively with the devices. So, and put a fix in place. So you may send a device in for some other type of repair, and if we found that that sound issue has been happening on that particular model but has not affected yours yet, we'll apply a fix. That's again part of the warranty. We'll do the proactive fix to that. So hopefully that if there is a known issue with that kind of sound problem that you referenced, hopefully we're catching that. But again, we do have some methods in place and metrics that we look at our service center to try and see if we're having any kind of trend that we can hopefully try and find the result, the resolution for, and then be proactive in our ongoing maintenance with the devices to try and again kind of not so much a recall, but as devices come in, we can apply those fixes before failure occurs.
Great. Do the tablet docks or cradles support multiple external displays?
We have some of our newer docks have what we call dual monitor, dual display capability. So some of the older models that might be out there, I think are just single monitor rated, but we do have again some of our newer technologies that we're bringing into the docks and cradles where we can support multiple monitors.
Fantastic. Do any of the units support Windows 10?
The Toughbook 20 is shipping out the gate with 10 on it. It can also be downgraded to 8.1 or Windows 7. And then the other products in our line, come summertime, will have options to ship with 10 on them, as well as, again, they support Windows 7 and Windows 8. But once we get to the summer time frame, most of our product, if not all of our product line, will have an option to ship with Windows 10 on it.
Great. Let's see. What kind of graphic processors should a Toughbook have?
Well, we usually typically are using an Intel chip in our devices. And in some of the tablets, I think we use a different process, an NVIDIA type graphics chip. But again, it's going to depend on the type of device. The 54 typically has a higher end. We see that as more of a performance type of device. So you'll see a higher end video option, and we do offer options, for many of our laptops and tablets where you can choose. Do I want the standard video card or do you want to upgrade to a higher end video card? And you'll see in some of our lines, we have what we'll call performance models versus standard models. Typically the performance models will have a higher end video graphics card in them versus say a standard product or a standard offering, which will kind of have a more standard type of video card.
Great. Do you still offer tablets with barcode scanners?
Yes, in fact, all of our tablets have the capability to add a barcode scanner if needed. So we can. Those barcode scanners are typically they're 2D imagers, high-end imagers that we put in there, so they can decode any 1D or 2D barcodes. But those are a standard option that can be chosen. I shouldn't say standard feature, but they're an option that's available on all of our tablets. Should it be required, and it's a standard feature of all of our handhelds.
Great. Jack says, is there a chance the tablets could have any screen issues like we saw with the CF53s?
Again, I'm not as familiar with that particular issue that they mentioned in the 53s, but the screen technology that we're using in the tablets is a slightly different technology just because they are tablets. So the coatings and the durability that we build into those, are going to be a little different than you'll see on the 53. So to date, again, the G1 has been is our most popular, tablet that launched, like I said, about 4.5 years ago. Today we have about 46% market share in the rugged tablet space, and that's basically mainly due to the G1 shipments and the M1 shipments. But we've not seen any pervasive screen issues with those two devices. They've held up very well. But again, they're designed slightly differently with different materials and technologies than our 53.
Fantastic. So it looks like we have time for one more question. That asks, do you have wireless docks?
Do we have wireless docks? Today we do not. Today our docks are all are wired. So we have Ethernet ports on the docks where we'd get connectivity that way. And then if we needed to wireless, the wireless would go through the device itself.
All right, fantastic. So we're out of time. Thank you so much, Rick and Jim and Ed for that awesome presentation. Hopefully everybody was able to learn a bit more. Do you all have any final words for our audience?
Thanks very much for coming today. We'll hope you'll check the technology out a little bit further.
Yep, and from Panasonic, I appreciate everyone's time. And as we said, any follow-ups, I'm sure you can come back through and you can get to us. And certainly any questions that you may need answered or product related or otherwise, just let us know.
All right, fantastic. Thank you so much. I do want to remind everyone, if your question wasn't addressed, somebody with Panasonic will be able to follow up with you. And if you had to step out or miss any part of today's presentation, you will be receiving an email in a few days with a link to view the webinar on demand. Special thanks to Panasonic for sponsoring this great event, and thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in today. We hope to see you back soon for another Spiceworks Partner webinar. But until then, stay safe and keep it spicy.